The Lord of the Rings has been a pop culture icon for decades and has defined the fantasy genre as we know it today. And whether you're watching this video to cram before your English class or because you just want to watch me scurry around my living room like a court jester, you are in luck because today we are covering the entire story of The Lord of the Rings in 5 minutes or less. Now it all starts with this fella, J.R.R. Tolkien. He was an Englishman, Oxford professor, and just big old nerd that lived from 1892 to 1973, and he wrote books. Many of these books took place in the world that Tolkien wrote and invented called Middle-earth. Middle-earth is an incredibly dense and well-developed fantasy world with roughly medieval technology and lots of fantasy staple creatures running around like elves, wizards, goblins, and dwarves. Now the first fellow we're gonna meet is the biggest, baddest villain of them all, at least in the context of this story, and his name is Sauron. He lives in the land of brimstone and fire known as New Jersey. I mean, Mordor. Right now, Sauron looks like a tower, but that's just because a while back he made an all-powerful evil ring. But after doing that and trying to take over the world, he lost the ring in a battle. Sauron had put so much of his evil power into this ring that once he had lost it, he was pretty much powerless and had to wander around disembodied until he could get his ring back. Now this ring here is a really big deal. Symptoms of possessing the ring include, but are not limited to, bouts of rage, enhanced greed, long life but in a really bad way, the sudden urge to take over the world, nausea, and vomiting. Despite its importance, the ring was actually lost for a couple thousand years until Gollum, who must not have read the side effect warnings, found the ring and then subsequently became a slimy little freak who hides in caves going One day though, Gollum dropped the ring and it got picked up by this guy, Bilbo Baggins. Bilbo walks out with the ring and Gollum swears revenge to eventually get the ring back. However, the ring doesn't take over the mind of Bilbo the same way it did Gollum. And that is largely due to the fact that Bilbo is a hobbit. Hobbits are a species of short little humanoid creatures that like to eat, drink, smoke, and walk around without shoes, and they dwell in a pretty little spot called the Shire. Their total lack of drive and ambition makes them almost entirely immune to the powers of evil, which is what I tried to explain to my supervisor last week, but they insisted that no, I'm still fired. Bilbo takes the ring back to the Shire and hides it, which is fine until his wizard friend Gandalf finds out that Bilbo's little ring is actually the ring. You see, Sauron doesn't follow the law of finders keepers, so he's kind of wanting to get his ring back so he can finish taking over the world. Bilbo hands the ring off to his young nephew Frodo, and they escape the Shire with the ring just in the nick of time. But now they have to figure out what to do with it. They decide that the ring must be destroyed in order to eliminate Sauron from Middle-earth for good. Unfortunately, to do that, they're going to have to throw it into Mount Doom, a really big volcano that just so happens to be located on Sauron's doorstep. Despite how insanely dangerous this mission is, they decide that Frodo should keep carrying the ring since he's not super influenced by its powers, but they do let him take along a couple of pals for moral support. Frodo needs friends, he needs a team, a fellowship, if you will. He's joined by a couple of hobbit friends from the Shire, including Sam, his loyal gardener and friend, and the troublemakers Merry and Pippin. The elves send along their best guy, Legolas, and from the dwarves we have the mighty but hot-headed Gimli. From the human side of things, we have Aragorn, aka Strider, the mysterious ranger who is destined to one day take the throne of the human kingdom. And then we also have Boromir, the son of the guy who is currently in charge of the human kingdom that Aragorn will end up dethroning. Yeah, it's a little awkward. This whole fellowship is led by Gandalf, and these 9 walkers begin the long hike from here all the way to here. They get into all kinds of hijinks whilst on this walk, including Gandalf here dying and then coming back to life with a snazzy new wardrobe, and then Boromir here is overwhelmed with greed and tries to steal the ring from Frodo and then is killed after realizing his mistake. Unlike Gandalf, he does not come back. By the beginning of book 2, this fellowship has fallen apart entirely, and Frodo and Sam have gone off on their own way. Merry and Pippin are captured by orcs, escape the orcs, and then spend some time hanging out with some talking trees. And Aragorn, Legolas, Gimli, and Gandalf end up assisting the human kingdoms, helping those kingdoms win some pretty big wars against Sauron's minions. Meanwhile, Frodo and Sam, who are still hiking their way to a volcano, are having a really bad time. They end up getting some help from Gollum, you know, the one who's all These two do eventually make it to the volcano with the ring, but Gollum pulls a fast one on him and tries to take the ring. But in the process of trying to take the ring, he falls into the fire with it in his hand, and he and the ring are destroyed. But despite the dubious methods, this does end up with the ring destroyed, and Sauron forever eliminated from the land. Frodo and Sam make it out of Mount Doom alive, and they are reunited with what's left of the Fellowship. In the very extensive conclusion to this trilogy, Aragorn is crowned king, the hobbits make it safely home, and Frodo ends up leaving Middle-earth for good, going with Gandalf to their version of heaven, basically, because he was so tired out by the ring that he just needs eternal rest. Thematically, The Lord of the Rings discusses friendship, love, the corrupting effect of evil, the importance of humility, and the way that good will always win out over evil. Looking back on it with a modern lens, this whole plot seems a little bit cliche, especially when you boil it down to 5 minutes, but it's important to remember that a lot of what Tolkien wrote became the format for fantasy storytelling for decades to come. From Harry Potter to Game of Thrones, hardly any modern fantasy stories can deny the influence of Tolkien. It is a beautiful, valuable, and life-changing story. And if you're watching this video because you've been putting off reading or watching The Lord of the Rings for the first time, take this video as a sign that you should give it a go. As a lifelong fan myself, I promise you won't regret it. Like, subscribe, and tell me what you would have included in this video in the comments, and thank you all so much for watching. I've been Jess, and I hope that you all have an incredibly happy, hobbity day. Was this bit worth it?